Welcome back to another episode of I Pick Passion and Funny. Today I'm so excited to sit down with a guest who brings storytelling, humor, and heart to everything she does. Comedian and host Jasmine Ellis. You may have heard her on All Deaf Squadcasts, Just Like Me, or you might have caught her stand up on her latest comedy album, Black Girl Panic. Jasmine is not only a hilarious comedian, but also an incredible storyteller and event host. She recently performed at Hart Beat Studios, and she's the host of the Laugh Good comedy show by Walk Good LA, a show dedicated to uplifting and uniting the community through comedy. In this episode, we're talking about Jasmine's journey into comedy, the power of storytelling, what it's like balancing stand-up and hosting, and how her personal life and experiences shape her work. We also discuss what's next for her. This conversation is short but sweet, full of insight, laughs, and inspiration. So let's get into it. Well, welcome to the show, Jasmine.
Hi, Erica. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so I usually like to start off the show with an icebreaker. It's a game called Hella Awkward.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the questions or the categories, and then you basically tell me which question or which one you want. I read you the question, you give me the answer, of course. Okay? All right, so we have relationships, we have sex, we have real talk, and we have dating.
Ooh, and I get to decide which one?
Yep, you get to decide which one.
Let's do real talk.
Okay. Most people go for that one. That's the safe one.
Is it?
Well, I mean, yeah, most of the time it is. All right, so what is something you're too scared to go after?
See, to me, I knew real talk was actually going to be pretty heavy because, like, sex is like that, in out. You know what I mean? We've all done it. We're all grown ups. You just asked me the kind of thing that's going to be like a journal prompt later. Like, what, like, I'm going to sit with this later and be like, today in the podcast, Erica asked me, what am I afraid to go after? And I had a list of things to think of because I've been afraid for so long. And fear has been the thing holding me. You know what I mean?
Too. It's heavy, but you got this. I know you got this. I know you got this.
I've been afraid to go after, how do I just I pick one? I've been afraid to go after consistency online. I've been afraid to prioritize doing things on the internet above other things. I'm always like, well, I was going to make this video, but me and my friend had plans. And I make excuses when it comes to doing things online. Like, I tell myself that it is not that important of a thing. Like, oh, it's just online. And I think that comes from a place of fear because I'm afraid that if I put myself out there a lot online, I'm going to get negatively received. Actually, you know what? I'm afraid of YouTube. If I'm just going to be like, if I was going to give you a one-word answer, it's YouTube. Because I think YouTube can have the strongest, most loyal following and also the meanest, harshest, cruelest people on the internet because it feels so, what's the word? Anonymous. So you can get it on, you can say anything you want. Yeah, I'm afraid of YouTube, but I'm working on it. I'm working on that fear.
I get that. I totally get that. I've definitely seen the really nice comments, and then the people that you're like, wait, what? Like,
yeah,
why are you so mean? Why are you so cruel? Like, what did I do? You? Like, I've definitely. So I get what you're saying because you get people from all over everywhere. Like YouTube just seems so widespread. You know what I mean? So it's just, yeah, I don't know. People decide they want to be bold on the internet, but anyway. So I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Okay, all right. So let's go back. Who was young Jasmine? Did you always know that comedy was your path? Did you always know that, or something you just stumbled across?
I did not know that comedy was my path because I'll just be very frank. I think encouraging young girls to pursue stand-up comedy is a still very new thing. I think, being a child, I was born in 89, I grew up in mostly like the 90s and 2000s, like you just didn't. Like, I think if you were to ask the average person to name two comedians, they wouldn't be able to name a woman. Like, most of them just did not know. So people were seeing me as this like talkative, funny, crazy girl. They'd be like, oh, she's something else. She's crazy. But they didn't make that connection of she's a comedian because they just they hadn't seen that before. And I'm so grateful for people who have created a lane and made it so visible that I do think things are different now where people can see young, funny girls and go, she can do comedy. So I knew I was funny. I didn't know I was a comedian because I didn't know I could be.
Love that answer. Love that answer. Okay, so you describe yourself as a storyteller, interviewer, and comedian. How do you blend these roles when you're on stage? How do they all come together?
That's a great question. The interviewer one has been one of the trickier ones to do because When I started, crowd work was the enemy. Okay. Like if you did crowd work during your set, it was a sign that you had lost control of the room and that you needed to get it back. The whole point of crowd work was to like get them back when a joke didn't land, when they were talking amongst themselves, when they were heckling. So I'm just now starting to use that interviewer portion, even though, I went to school for broadcasting. I've always been really curious about people. Audiences are very receptive to crowd work, so I'm incorporating it more, but in my own way. I don't want to just be standing up there going, "How old are you? How long you guys been together? What do you do for a living?" Like, I want to have my own way of incorporating things. So that has been the newest thing for me. The storytelling goes hand in hand. I feel like I was a storyteller before I was a comedian. I was always like, even when I was a kid. Like my uncle Herman, I love him to death. My Uncle Herman and my aunt Petey, they live in San Diego and they go to all my San Diego shows. Like anytime I'm on a show in San Diego, the other comics will be like, the crowd is kind of dead, but there's this one black couple with glasses on. I'm like, matching glasses and Saints jerseys. Yes. And they're just cracking up. Yeah, they're the best people on the whole planet. And my Uncle Herman, he was telling me the other day about when I was like 11 years old and I got in a fight at school. And I told this story to the whole family and had all the adults like fully locked into this story and laughing really hard. It was like storytelling was my first stand up. Something would happen and I would tell the same story to different groups of friends and teachers and my parents' friends. And I would like kind of hold court and like, sometimes embellish, sometimes change a detail here and there to get to the point. If I was quoting someone, I would act it out. And like, and then my mama said, like, I would do things. And I didn't realize, like, oh, that was all stand up, that was stand up comedy. I was storytelling. So the storytelling just seamlessly made its way into the stand up. And honestly, the hard part was learning to cut things out, to get to the point more, to make the joke more precise. And that's what came. But the stage presence and the comfort with telling my truth has always been there. Like, that's why, like, to me, picking the sex card was going to be easy because, like, I got stories, like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But introspection is hard sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Very, very hard. But you handled it well. You handled that one well. All right. So Black Girl Panic is your second album. What new perspectives or stories did you bring to this project that differ from your first album?
Wow. Well, I mean, there was a 6-year difference. So I think I was in a different headspace when I wrote it. What was really important to me is, and not that I'm done with marriage or relationships or love as a topic, but I felt like I had really done quite a bit of that in like the Dry Bar special and the Don't Tell special. And so I just really wanted to stay a little bit more focused on the bigger picture when it comes to my mental health. So I got a lot more comfortable talking about mental health on this special. And I think that's very clear. And then I'm just so much more comfortable. I feel like you can just feel it. I'm comfortable. The audience is comfortable. I just know I belong up there. And I know the story needs to be told. I wouldn't say I was uncomfortable before, but I feel like I'm just growing more into myself.
Definitely. I can tell the growth as well. Because I have both of them in my Apple Music on Apple Music. So, both of them saved. So yeah, they're both amazing. What's been the most challenging part of your comedy journey? And what's kept you going through tough moments?
I think the most challenging thing would be not making the list. I grew up, always wanting awards and trophies and these outside pieces of validation. And so, I haven't been on Vulture's top 100 comics to watch. I haven't been on Netflix as a joke. I haven't done Mood Tower in like 8 years. For a lot of time, I have looked at my success and measured it by other people's awards. Like, well, she has this, therefore she is better than me. And making my own projects has changed that for me because I'm like, it's an amazing thing I did this, and I can point to it. I can look at it. I can go, I love this thing that I like. Something I want to exist. And self-producing is amazing. It makes you feel very in control of your career. And I don't know, I'm able to put things out into the world that I want. And that has been a challenge, is feeling invisible sometimes. But that's what I do, is I just keep making myself more visible. I keep putting the things I want out into the world and making them exist. And I know, my time is going to come, whether or not it's in somebody else. Because the thing is too, like these things, I can be like, I need to make this list and that list. And then tomorrow the thing can disappear. Like literally a credit I wanted so bad just went off the air, went out of business 2 days ago. So
Wow.
I can't measure my success in other people's measurements.
So true. So true. And creative control is very important. So I love that for you. Are there any comedians or storytellers who influence or inspire your style?
For sure. I don't want to say influence because I think I definitely have my own voice, my own style, but I'm a huge fan of Wanda Sykes. I think she's a phenomenal storyteller. She's always so clear and concise, but so funny. And she brings in these like big worldly topics and then grounds it in like the day to day of her own life. So I love Wanda Sykes. I definitely feel like, there was just those like queens of comedy that I grew up watching. Love like S'more and just like her energy and just the stage presence was there. I definitely like, in the early days I was a big fan of Chappelle and Chris Rock. But nowadays I don't watch that much stand up. You'd be shocked. I draw from my own life and I just focus on the basics and put it in that way.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. Okay, Wanda Sykes was a really interesting, good answer. I like that answer. I was like,
That's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, definitely. I was shocked that you said that, but that's amazing. Okay, so you performed at Hart Beat Studios.
Mhm.
What was that experience like? How did it differ from any other venues that you've worked at before?
Was actually kind of wild because it was a showcase for the people who work at Hart Beat Studios. So it happened in it was like at 5 p.m. The New York Times was there taking photos, but like it was in the lobby of this business. It was like a co-working area. So it was like oddly well lit. There was a lot of plants around. Like it wasn't your normal setting. But I just brought it what I was always gonna bring it and had fun with it. As far as like what opportunities have come of it, nothing just yet, but I don't want to say nothing will happen. You never know. So I had a
Yep.
great time. My set went really well. I thought I built some really good connections, but it was also just a weird transition in the industry that happened like right after. So you never know what's going to happen next.
Of course, you never know, but sky's the limit. Anything can happen, right?
Mhm.
All right, so you're a host for the Laugh Good Comedy show.
On Friday, it went amazing. We sold it out. It was great.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so it's presented by Walk Good LA. How did you get involved with that, and what has the experience been like?
So it's been really fun. I got involved with them because when I was doing the promotion for Black Girl Panic, which is now streaming everywhere, you can listen to it on Prime, you can watch it on Roku, Tubi, it's pretty much everywhere. When I was doing the promotion for it, I wanted to have a release party at the Walk It Studio, but at the time they were having a film festival, so it didn't line up with their schedule. But Marley, who's on Instagram at Marley Namaste, she really liked me and the ideas that I had. And she was like, well, would you want to host our monthly show? So it started out as just like a one off in November. We sold it out in like a few hours. Like people were really excited about it. Then we did it again in January as a fire relief show. And we got some really great names. We had Janelle James, we had Zainab Johnson, just like so many super funny people. And then we did it in February. February was great. Also sold out. March, amazing. We did a women's history one. Jasmine W. You might know from TikTok. She's very
Yes.
funny. Brandy Denise from The Tonight Show. Talia McNeil. So many funny. Harris Nicole. So many funny people on this lineup. We're just continuing to build with it. I co-host it with Ben Abiola. Ben is like, he's been in LA a little bit longer than me. He's way more in the scene and he's just so energetic. We really balance each other out. I've been doing stand up a little bit longer than he has, but we have different connections and it's great to just build with him. It's been really awesome.
I love that. Yeah, Jasmine W was just on the pod, the one before the last one. Yeah, I want to say.
Congrats. She's great.
I just had her on the podcast. Yep. Okay, so hosting and stand up are different skill sets. Okay, so how do you approach hosting versus performing your own set?
Oh, yeah. When I'm performing my own set, my goal is to get the audience to know me, to laugh with me, and to want to follow me. Those are my goals. When I'm hosting, my goal is to create a flow for the show that gives everyone else the opportunity to accomplish those three goals. As a host, obviously, you want people to if you're a host, you're still a comedian. So you want people to want to follow you and like you. If you're what a lot of hosts I see do is they do their favorite material regardless of if it is good for that time in the show, regardless of if somebody just did a joke like that or they're going to. They just do what makes them look good and then get off the stage and leave the energy kind of weird and they're just like, oh yeah, and your next comic is blank. No, I get the crowd warmed up, I get them comfortable, I keep them under control, and I keep them ready for the next person. And I think it's really important for me as a host to showcase that skill set because when I'm booking these comics, they're people I admire and they're people I want to work with, whether they're a year in or 20 years in. And I want them to go, she's a good host. I want her to host for me. That's the interesting thing about comedy is when you are booking someone, essentially you are employing them for the night, right? But they also have the power to turn around and employ you for the next night or the next 5 years. So relationships are everything. So I want to show them that like I can be a useful part of your show. So that's what I do is I create a flow. I create an energy and I create a community and I create a flow as a host.
Yes, yes, love that. Okay. All right. So, while Good LA has such a strong community focus, what does it mean to you to be a part of a comedy show that uplifts and connects people in this way?
Means everything. I am so grateful that I just built this relationship with them. When we had the opportunity to do a fire relief show, they were just like, let's go, let's see what we can do, let's build on it. And we raised like $5,000. It
Wow.
means that I'm using my God given gifts to help others. And it makes me feel not only talented, but valuable. And that's like really important for me. Like, I want people, whether or not I'm some huge name, I want people to be like, I'm glad she was here. You know what I mean? And I feel that way. I feel like I'm adding value to other people's lives. And I like that.
The impact. I love that. Yeah, I agree. All right, so you're in a interracial marriage, which you've been very open about and talk about in your special and everything, which I'm sure brings both unique challenges and humor. So how does your relationship influence your comedy?
Oh my gosh. I write about everyone I love and I spend a lot of time with my husband. So I'm going to write about him.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of times where I notice certain things and certain quirks and ways that he was raised differently from me. And it plays out in our relationship. And so I'm going to write about it. I think it's really funny because there is a certain type of man that's really threatened by the idea of their wife talking about them or joking about them. And so, in the comments, they'll try to project, like, oh, I feel so sorry for her husband. He must be miserable. And it's like the way we laugh together on a daily basis. And also, he gets me too. That's the thing. Like, he will cloud me too, not like, I don't really make fun of him racially. It's more so I just point out differences that are because of us being from other backgrounds. But yeah, honestly, we just laugh a lot. We have a lot of fun. We laugh a lot. I do have the unique position of being in two families from two different backgrounds. And it's interesting. Like, I married into that family and I take it seriously that I am the aunt to three white children, to three little white boys. I'm their aunt. I'm the daughter-in-law to two white boomers. Like, I'm part of their family, just like they're part of mine. So I'm learning and laughing, and that's really that's what I like to write about. If I'm learning something, I'm writing about it. So that's an experience I'm going through. So I'm going to talk about it. And I find that like people in interracial relationships can laugh at it. I think people who aren't can laugh at it. I mean, also too, as a Black person in America, even if you're not married to a white person, you are a Black person existing in a white world. So there's some level of relatability to it. There's something, you're going to be the only Black person in a space at some point. So it usually works. I think the only people who ever feel threatened are white people who've never been the only white person in a space. And that's just not my demo. A type of white person who like makes no effort to ever be in a Black space. What you gonna do with Jasmine Ellis? I was never gonna be your cup of tea. So
Right. Exactly. That is so true. That's funny. Okay, so representation is a big theme for you. What does it mean to you to be a voice of Black women in comedy?
it means that little Jasmines will get told that they should do comedy when they're acting up or talking in class. It means that little girls with ADHD with too much energy will find a great outlet for it in writing and in comedy, and it won't seem so far fetched or crazy because there's a Jasmine to look up to.
Yes, yes. So what advice would you have for those little girls or someone aspiring to walk this path? What advice would you have for them?
My advice would be that it's really not that big of a deal. Like, just do it. I think we condition people, especially Black women, to be afraid of failing,
Mm.
to feel that we have to do everything perfectly all the time and that we're always representing everyone who looks like us. Like, I love that in a world where there's literally, I can name like 5 stand-up comedians who are Black women named Jasmine, let alone like not even just like in the realm of comedy. There's so many of us that we don't have to, no one of us has to speak for all of us. We get to have our own voice and our own point of views. And like, that's why the Queens of Comedy was so important at the time, because it was five different Black female comics with different perspectives on life and love. I think when you have more representation, no single representation has to speak for all of you. And we don't do that with men. We definitely don't do that with white men. We never say, Bill Burr speaks for white America. No, he's just Bill Burr. He speaks for Bill Burr. So for me, I'm just happy to represent myself and to make the weird Black girls and the awkward Black girls and the anxious Black girls feel seen. But I also love that I'm not the only one doing it. I am just one mirror on the girls like me. We have a million. And I love that.
Yes, for that. Okay, so what are you most excited to work on next? Do you have any upcoming projects or goals that you like to share?
Yes and no. So it's like, I'm going to talk about the general idea. You are going to see long form video content that showcases my ability as a host. My long-term goal is to be a talk show host. I'm just going to put this out into the universe and the world. I would love to host late night television. It would be cool to be the first Black woman to do it, but I also don't want to be the first Black woman to do it. If somebody beats me there, so be it, Like, yeah. I'm not clinging on to that and hoping no one else makes it. But I want to host late night. And so what I'm in the process of doing right now, which is actually really funny because someone just yesterday asked me if I wanted to do another special, and I don't. It's not that I'm done doing stand-up specials at all. That's not this year. Last year was Black Girl Panic. I need like at least a full year where the focus is on putting out the long form content. So you are going to see a show hosted by Jasmine and you're going to be able to watch it. That is going to happen. I don't want to give my concepts away. I'm just holding it in really tight. Everybody in my immediate circle knows it and they're excited. And I even have them doing this thing. I'm like, because I know I'm motivated by shame. So I want people to be like, girl, have you finished the first episode yet? When is it coming? I want them to put that pressure on me, but I don't want the world to put that pressure on me because I'm conquering my fear of YouTube actually by doing the long form content. So that's like, it's full circle. I am literally conquering the fear this year and I'm excited about it.
Love that. See, we just brought it right on back around. Love that. Yeah, well, you know what, Jasmine, I thank you very much for coming on because that's literally all I have for you.
I thank you so much for having me.